Alright, peeps, what are we looking at today? We're looking at the Blood DK. 'Cause the Blood DK, I've been in a tanky mood lately. I don't know. I love my priest, don't get me wrong, but there's something about a Blood DK that just makes me happy. So what are we doing? We're going to pull everything we can. Pretty much. Yeah, they're a great class, they're a fun class, they're a survivable class. Their healing is insane, their damage is insane. You will notice I constantly lose threat on one mob in particular, and that is because I looked on the lower left-hand corner of my screen where I have the Blizzard raid frames, and as long as I'm the only one with the red little thing around myself, then I know that the hunter has his pet on taunt. I'm not going to advise the hunter that he has his pet on taunt. He must know this himself when his pet is taking damage. So if you get into those dungeons, or the BGs, or whatever, well, it wouldn't really matter in a BG, or raid or something like that, and the hunter is insistent on keeping his pet's taunt on, by all means. Not my job. You want your pet to die, that is your choice. I will hold aggro on everything else, and you can enjoy that. So as you can see, the damage is ridiculous on AoE. We are clearly outshining most people in the AoE portion. So what are we doing? Killed the first two mobs. We'll come up here. Bum bum bum. Look at that, 723,000 life. That is absurd. But that's mostly because of the Shamanomenon and the Ancestral Swiftness. So I come in here, and I pop my Icebound Fortitude. And you say, why did you pop your Icebound Fortitude? It's just trash. Well, one, most tanks, most good tanks, let me rephrase that, run on a rotation system on their cooldowns. It makes no sense to go into a dungeon, or a raid, or something like that, and for 10 seconds, or 8 seconds, or what have you, you blow every single solitary cooldown you have, and for that very short period of time, you are indestructible. At the end of those 10 seconds, you will take damage like a stuck pig. So what I typically do is institute a rotation in my cooldowns. You will see me use my Vampiric Blood a lot. I think that increases my healing or something like that. But it's on a very short cooldown, so I typically use that quite often. I rarely use my Empower Rune weapon. I don't need it that often. My IBF, specifically in this dungeon, I use a lot because of the stuns. Your Skulkers will stun you, and there are three of them in this dungeon, two of which are side by side, and one is by Gekken, that second boss. So what do we do here? We typically try to keep that guy pointed away from the raid, but you know, the hunter wants to keep his pet on taunt, so be it. Some hunter pets do have taunt built in. If you get one of the kitty cats in the beginning. Where is it? The Jade Forest? God, I haven't been there in forever. One of the cats down there. He taunts. Just that's part of his rotation. The pet taunts. So we'll try to taunt real quick and get the boss in a better position. But I don't play taunt wars with pets. I don't. At all. I don't do it in raids, I don't do it in dungeons. I actually did the first half of Throne of Thunder on the DK last night. Got nothing, shock gasp. But I was in there with a really good tank who understood taunting. And we never got into a taunt war, and we taunted at the right times and all that other fun stuff, and it was a nice refreshing change. But this guy, this poor Shamanomanomenon, the shaman, he doesn't get to heal too much, and you'll see why at the end. We ended up going about 50-50 on healing done. And that's what DKs are good at. Surviving. If you're going to try to, or attempt to solo anything for the very first time, and you want to bring a tune that is most likely to survive, do it on a Blood DK. Do it in your DPS gear, it doesn't matter, because it's an amazing survivability class. I touched quickly recently on bad tanks and Death Strike and things like that. So the abridged version is Death Strike will heal you for the damage you sustained in the preceding 5 seconds. Now, it will always heal you for a base of, what is it, 7% of your total health? Yes, I believe so. 7% of your health or things like that. So you will always get a minimum heal off of it. Excuse me. You will always get the minimum heal off of it. But it works in a few different ways. One, it heals you, and two, it gives you a blood shield, which absorbs damage. Now, I really should have done this at the time so I could open the spellbook and show you. I'm doing this in post. Basically what it does is... I can't even talk about that right now because I don't want to give you guys the wrong information because you guys will troll me so hard. But there are percentages. It's like 20% of X damage sustained in the preceding 5 seconds if, you know, X equals Y over B7 squared. But ultimately they're very, very, very survivable. I did glyph AMS so that it absorbs damage entirely instead of, you know, just breaking it down. That's always fun. Foul Menagerie is nice. I do have the Stam trinket, the relic of whoever the fuck it is. You can see it on my bar. Yeah, it's to the right of my name, so it's on a very short cooldown and it increases your dodge. If you use it regularly, it's actually very good and handy, and it comes in as yet another cooldown in the DK arsenal. Now you will notice I pull pretty much as possible, because I like to get lots and lots and lots of vengeance. I do, because vengeance is awesome, vengeance means more DPS, and yes, that is just wonderful. I mean, look at the numbers, they're so pretty. Now you guys have, a few of you, not all of you, have mentioned clicking scrub. Well, let me explain to you. 99% of my tunes have a cooldown that I do not want to hit by accident. I have had all of these macroed and keybinded and all that other fun stuff, but my muscle memory sucks. And to be honest, if I'm taking progression, if I'm taking a raid, if I'm taking a dungeon, if I blow that cooldown at the wrong time, it increases the healer's stress, which in turn means that he's using his more expensive heals, which means he's probably going to piss through mana, which lowers the survivability of everybody in the dungeon. So what I've taken to doing is clicking certain abilities, my big major cooldowns that I do not want to hit by accident, I click. And if you have a problem with that, that's your own fucking problem, because I don't really care, because it works for me. And I enjoy it, and nobody's complained about my tanking yet. And the only person that would matter is the healer, so yeah, that's about it. That's about it. So yes, I click all my defensives, pretty much. 1 through 12 are keybinded. Taunt, Mind Freeze, Outbreak, Soul Reaper, AMS, and Death and Decay are all keybinded. I don't have Dark Simulacrum or Empower Rune Weapon keybinded though. And I don't have that one or that one. Yeah, but otherwise, you know, my Dancing Rune Weapon and all that other fun stuff. They're not. But that is how I play, and it works for me. And that's all that it comes down to. I mean, everybody on the world can call you a scrub, and at the end of the day, if you're clearing the content, it really doesn't fucking matter what anybody else says. Because I know some of you new tanks, you know, you'll get into a dungeon or a raid, even if it's LFR, and somebody will be like, oh my god, you scrub. Oh my god, you don't know what you're doing. Blah, 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 blah. Well, what they forget is that, excuse me, everybody has a learning process, and everybody plays slightly differently. The point being is that 99% of the time, the people that are saying this aren't in the top 10 guilds in the world, and they are not clearing the content, you know, on a world-like basis. So their opinion is kind of null and void. Now, even if a Realm First or World First DK was to come into your group for whatever reason as a healer, and start insulting your intelligence and all that other fun stuff, it still should be taken with a grain of salt anyway, because they are playing in a completely different area than most people. They have dedicated healers that probably they've played with for a long time. They have DPS that has worked with them. There's a really nice cohesion in those Realm World First guilds. which you don't find in pugs, which you don't find in LFR, which you don't find in blah 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 blah. So their playstyle has adapted to their group. Now, if you're typically a dungeoner, or you do LFR and things like that, what you're primarily concerned about is your own survivability and saving your own ass. Because typically that's what you have to do. In LFR, in Raid Finder, in dungeons and things like that, you won't find that kind of cohesion. No matter how good the group is, there just isn't that cohesion. There shouldn't be, because nobody knows each other. There's 25 different random people. So my playstyle has adapted to... It was slightly different during progression, when I raided with him constantly. I don't raid anymore, but... Yes, other things were keybounds that I could hit them at the drop of a hat, but I don't need that anymore. I need survivability, and I need to make sure I have them when I need them. So, there you go. That is my speech for the day. Otherwise, the DK, hilariously fun class. I mean, once you get into AoE, you see the damage meter over there just skyrockets. It's just obscene. Not too much can kill you as a blood DK. Not too much at all. And worst case scenario, you can always summon your pet and eat him, which is a ridiculous heal in and of itself. I mean, the hunter or the lock or someone's pet, when we jump down, hold all the mobs. Didn't make me nervous. Didn't make the healer nervous. You'll see at the end of this, the healer still has pretty much full mana. And it's like, alright, cool beans. You know, you take the situations you're given. For the most part, you control the situations as the tank. You should be anyway. Controlling what position you are putting yourself, the healer, and the DPS in. Typically. That, you know, outside of telling everybody to dismiss their pets, that may not have happened, assuming they did. But when I go into a 5-man, my goal isn't to talk to everybody and make biffles with everybody in the dungeon. My goal is to get in, make sure the healer's man is fine, and get the fuck out. We just want our loot, we want our valor, we want whatever the hell it is we came in for, and to get out. Nobody really enjoys sitting in the 5-mans or chain running 5-mans for your valor and stuff like that. There are much better ways to get all that crap done. Interesting poll, but well done. Yes, yes. But yeah, he's got some Raid Finder pieces. I mean, he's probably overgeared for the content. I think he's 480 now. I think his best is 481, but that includes a Malevolent piece, which I don't use. So yeah, the elevator boss, still trolling people. This elevator's more difficult than the last boss. So true, so true. Be nice if I could use some mana. So now we'll take a look at the healing. So you can see the last encounter, we did 20k. We did pretty much 50%. Damage overall, smoking the damage. Not too shabby. Dun, dun, dun. So we'll just make sure that the healer's relatively close, and then we'll start pulling. You'll see the tanks. I've noticed something else about tanks, because we're on a tank rant. I don't know why, and that's probably what sparked my interest again in tanking. Was that tanking is very easy. It's not complicated. What needs to be done is very basic. Now, you'll go into those dungeons where you'll see the tank 7 miles ahead, typically a Brewmaster or, what is it? DKs don't get too far with Death's Advance. Pallies, if they pop their speed of light. A tank who will just get so far away from everybody, get assassinated, and then cry for a res, and then, oh, you guys are all scrubs, you should have kept up. Wait a minute. You're blowing speed cooldowns to get where you're going and then yell at everybody else. No. That's not how it works. One, for tanks, always check your healer's mana. Just give it a glance. That's all you have to do. If you want to use these raid frames, just put on the, what is it? It shows you their mana bar on there. I typically don't use it because clicking on somebody's name is really not that complicated to me. I can probably do it in my sleep at this point. But make sure they have mana. If they're struggling and you don't have cooldowns ready, or you don't know your class, or you're not prepared, wait. It's not complicated. Just give it a nice slow roll. Going in and wiping is just going to piss everybody off and going to make the dungeon last a hell of a lot longer than it needs to be. So keep an eye on your healer's mana. The DPS is kind of irrelevant. And don't get me wrong. Yes, the DPS helps kill shit and rage timers, blah blah blah. But as long as the healer's with you, that's all that matters. And you can hold aggro on the mobs and keep them off the healer, the DPS will eventually catch up. There's this great synergy, typically, that used to happen. It's tanks and healers used to communicate, because the tank's survivability used to directly relate to the healer's ability and gear level, and all that other fun stuff. So, typically, you'll see a lot of the old school tanks have this unspoken bond with their healers. You don't see that anymore. You know, these new tanks just kind of thinks they wait till they quasi-outgear the content, not fully outgear it. And then they go in there like Johnny Cock and Balls, and then wonder why they're getting assassinated and crying to everybody else how much they suck, you didn't kill it fast enough, so it's the DPS's fault for not killing it fast enough. It's the healer's fault for not keeping up, and all this other fun stuff, where at the end of the day, it's probably the bad tank's fault. Now, if you just follow those few simple rules, you, your healers, your dungeons, your LFRs will probably get along a whole lot better. If you go into LFR and you're not sure of a mechanic, ask the other tank. Whisper. Send them a whisper. Most tanks and most groups would rather you ask the question before the pull instead of asking it after when it's wiped. Because then you're just wasting everybody's time, and nobody wants to do that. We all want to go in and get our loots and our tokens and our whatever and just get out and move on with our day. If we wanted to sit in an LFR setting all day, we would probably be doing progression, which is what progression is for, to smash your head against the keyboard, typically. Bum, bum, bum. So what are we doing? We're on the final boss. We're tanking him in the corner, trying to, because we're fighting with this retard's pet. Now he's going to do his ground slam directly at the raid because his pet is retarded. Dun, dun, dun. Dun, dun, dun. And then he took insane damage and died because he stood in the blades. Frickin' hunters. Geniuses, man. Geniuses. Of course, now that the pet's dead, we have full aggro on the boss. Hunter's like, well then, I guess my stupidity has finally caught up with me. Having my pet taunt on forces the boss to be faced at the raid. So now we just point him at the wall real quick because of a positioning movement. And, yeah, so, I don't know, just be good tanks, be good healers, be good DPS, you all can do it. You know, it just requires a little common sense that isn't so common anymore. Even in the real world, this has not a whole lot to do with WoW, but, you know, the real world as well. Common sense is not so common anymore. We have bred a new generation of mentally incapable people. Sadly. And I don't know why or what happened, but if you go in and make the dungeon a better place, maybe it will rub off on somebody else, but this is almost over anyway. I wanted to put out some quick content, some fun content, since I am loving my DK right now. That's what I am putting out. Let's see. At the very end, I will give my little blurb update on Dad. Some of you may notice, my dad, is having some issues. He so far has had a triple bypass, and he had to have a valve replaced, and he still had some more surgery to do on Monday. So we'll see, but it's still touch and go at the moment. Surgery took way too long and all that other fun stuff, but that's why the content's starting to slow down. But we're back home putting out the content for you guys, because that is my job. Doing a quick rundown on my guys' gear, 480, yep, just my stats and stuff like that. So yeah, that's about it. If you guys want, leave a like, comment, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. It helps, lets me know your thoughts. And yeah, take it easy, peeps.